Yeah, okay, time to live free. Plenty goals I'm achieving. Some real life topics and talking financial freedom. Mindset, soul and love, everything in between. This is Freedom Podcast. Tune in, live free. Hey, got my mindset right and I got the drive. Planning one day, no more job, no more 9 to 5. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. This is freedom. Tune in, cause it's going down. Woo!
Hi, this is Anna and welcome to another episode of your Freedom Podcast. In this episode, I interview Andrea Gullick. Andrea supports women to transform their life through the courage to know they matter, own their enoughness and create lives that embrace inner peace and freedom. After nursing her first son through cancer, before becoming widowed 3 years later, Andrea knows all too well how challenging life can be, yet she is a passionate advocate for choosing to thrive regardless of your life experiences. I'm really super excited to be interviewing Andrea. We connected recently in Clubhouse and she's got such an inspirational story. So hi Andrea, I'm really pleased that you've given me the time to do this interview because I know we recently connected on the Clubhouse app. I've met so many amazing people. So thanks for being here.
Clubhouse seems to be the place. It's pretty good for connecting people all around the world.
Exactly. And I know that you've got a really inspiring story to share. The Freedom Podcast is all about, we have 3 pillars: freedom in love, which is really about self-care and self-love, freedom in money, because financial freedom is always good, and then freedom in mind, which I think sort of encompasses the whole thing really. And it's the three pillars I've come up with because those are the 3 things that have helped me find sort of equilibrium in my life really. And I know that you're a transformational courage coach, which sounds amazing. And I just really wanted you to open up and just like tell us how you kind of came to be this transformational courage coach. How did it all start?
Well, it started long before I realized it started, I guess. So I just always wanted to get married and have children. So I was not very career focused or career minded at all. My greatest ambition was to just find a farmer and marry and settle down, which I was really fortunate to do, and had my first child, married farmer, and we had our first baby just before I turned 25. And he was diagnosed with cancer when he was 2 days old. And started treatment when he was 8 weeks and continued that until he was 10 months old. And we were one of the fortunate families that actually was able to bring our baby home, and he's had no further issues at all. And we just, thanked our lucky stars that, that was a bit of a sort of something that came out from the nowhere and was a little bit challenging to get through, but we managed it. So continued on living my dream really with my husband, and we had another child in 2006 in January, and life was just as normal as 2 people with two little kids. And when our second son was 8 months old, so in the September of 2006, my husband was unfortunately killed in a car accident. And so really, yes, those things completely changed who I was and the direction of my life. So being left as a single mum who was in a pits of despair and grieving, and probably the whole aspect of going through an identity crisis, I think. When big things like that, and it doesn't have to be as big as that, but when we are the course of our life is the direction changes, it really shows up that we don't know who we are. So I trained as a teacher. I was a hairdresser and trained as a teacher so I could support my boys and have a little bit more freedom. But I kind of knew...
How old were your children at the time when your husband had the accident?
So our youngest was 8 months old, and our eldest, it was 2 days after his 3rd birthday.
Right, yeah, so very good.
So they were quite young. I was 27 when it happened. So, but and just through that, I became a teacher, and I really quite enjoyed that. But I knew that I was probably, after a little while, not really made for the system. There were a few things about the schooling system that I probably felt a little trapped in terms of supporting people to be even little children, just to be who they are. So it kind of just took me down that path of realizing that the courage it takes to transform our life, which is why I classify myself as a transformational courage coach. And I just knew that I really wanted to be able to support people and guide people, because transforming our life and having the courage to make the choices that we need to make, that's not always easy on our own. We can't always see what's holding us back, or what's conflicting within us between our head and our heart, because that's the thing for me, is that, you know, lots of people talk about mindset, and mindset's a wonderful thing, but for me, the necessity is to actually be able to hear the truth in your heart and have the courage to follow that. And that's what I really want to support people on, is to know who they are so well that they really trust what their heart is calling of them to do, and that they know how to move through what the mind will throw in the way. So,
because it is real courage to be able to do that, because I think there's loads of conflicting things in society, isn't there, that, you know, society, you know, you grow up, don't you, get married, you have children, and then you've got like social media where everyone's portraying these perfect lives. You get a job and you're in that career until you retire. There's all these things that kind of like are on the path before you that you feel like you need to compete with, in a way. So sometimes going with your heart as regards to just doing what you love can really conflict with, you know, I suppose, like your parents and their thoughts. So I think it's really, it'd be great to get a transformational courage coach to be able to help you, even regardless if you've been through something, you know.
That's exactly right.
I'm a big believer that,
because I guess as
go on. Sorry, go on.
Because I think for me, as the journey's progressed and we continue to sort of learn and grow and evolve, you know, a lot of what is really hurting people or creating that conflict within them is that it's our enoughness, all of these things outside of us, and the titles that we have and the role is really coming down to, will I be enough? If I stay in this relationship, will I be loved? If I get that job promotion, will I be good enough? If I have that car, will I be successful enough? And it's our enoughness. It's the dynamics of what that does to us and how that changes our choices. And when we can recognize that we always have been enough, it's kind of just the social constructions that kind of take us further away from that truth, then, there's more power to us, really.
Yeah. I mean, I put this podcast together for people who could be going through a bit of a dark time, that I think by sharing our stories, in a way, it normalizes what we're going through, because you hear other people's stories, even though you question what normal is. Because I have this all the time with my boys, where they'll say things like, they'll reference being normal because we're not normal as a family, and I'll be like, there is no normal. But I think just hearing other people's stories really helps you with whatever adversity you're going through, because everyone has something. It's just that some people have more traumatic sort of adversities than others, but everybody's had something that they've gone through. So if somebody came to you as a potential client, how do you sort of like identify, what's the kind of like first step that you take them through? Like, how do you identify what this enoughness is, or how do you help them initially?
So I guess initially I hold the space, and primarily one of my first questions is, and this is really for them to judge whether I'm the right person and they're the right person, but it's as simple as, how do you feel right now?
Yeah.
And usually most people, when they're sort of seeking some sort of support, they feel overwhelmed, they feel lost, they're tired, they're angry, they might be frustrated. And so it's about, how do you feel? And then ideally, how do you want to feel? And of course, everybody, like most people, they want to feel peaceful, they want to feel content, they want to feel happy, they want to feel relaxed and all of those things. Like, this is what we all strive for and thrive for, and we don't realize that it's the stories in our head that get in the way. And so that middle part is where I come in, and I help them untangle and unwind the stories in their head that take them away. And that's not dismissing that our situations and circumstances outside of us don't contribute to that. But the reality is that it comes down to, and it does sound really simple, and I know that it's not always easy, but our thoughts, our actions, our decisions, does it bring us peace or pain? Does it take us closer to peace or closer to pain? And being able to then kind of just like contemplate and sort of search into that of, well, if your choices and your thoughts are taking you closer to pain, what's the truth that's going to bring you back to a more peaceful place? And I know that when you're in the midst of very confusing, very frustrating, very disconnected times, that can sound really too simplistic. It can't be that simple. But when we allow ourselves the space to really sit with how we feel, it can be that simple.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that we do live in such a hectic, fast-paced life where it feels like so many things outside of us are controlling the way that we feel. But the reality is we do have the power, when we know how, to kind of just be able to come back to, well, if I'm in a state of pain right now, why is that? What's underneath that? How can I either change or accept? Because that's the thing, we can't always change the situation that we're in, but if we at least know why we're there and choosing it. Like, let's say it's someone's job, just for an example. If it's their job and they absolutely hate it, it's just so Groundhog Day and it's frustrating and annoying and it's not lighting them up, but it's really necessary because it's paying the bills right now. And they can't see a way out of that situation right at this moment. Can they find peace in why they are staying?
Yeah.
Because it's that conflict and that resistance of, this is not where I want to be, but I can't get out of this, that causes the pain, the suffering.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
Yeah.
I can so relate to that through kind of like my journey and stuff.
Yeah.
So for people who, just going to go back a little bit, like for people who could be listening to this who may be going through a bereavement, or, you know, and it's really raw, kind of don't want you to be like going back to how you felt back then, but like, is there anything you can share that can help people get through something like you went through with your husband in such a sort of tragic way, really? Because I know we shared previously when we were on Clubhouse, because we both felt very similar to this, that we wouldn't change our journeys because we feel like we've become more enriched, and just, it's like you say, it's transformed us, really, hasn't it? Our whole journeys. But sometimes when you're going through, this is why I put this podcast together, when people are actually going through something right now, that they might be able to pick up a few little nuggets of things that they can take away that could be a similar journey that they're going through. And I think a lot of people can relate to kind of a bereavement, whether that be their partner, their, you know, parents, a very close friend, or even a child, that I think must be really, really bad. But is there anything that you can share that kind of helped you at that time?
Right at the time, like in the midst of the trauma, like I'm a firm believer that when we are in the midst of the trauma, there's nothing that anyone can do. It's kind of, and I hated it at that time when people said, oh, in time, you know, in time it'll get better. Because for me, that's true. It's not the time. So this was the thing for me. It wasn't the time that passed that made it feel any easier or any less painful. It's what I did with that time. It's what the choices that I made. And it's, can we allow ourselves to experience the pain without putting any timelines on it, or any, I should be doing better than this, or I shouldn't be happy, or there's all of these shoulds that come into play when we're suffering, or even not even have to suffer, but just allow. So just try to allow yourself to actually, because for me, the pain that I felt in time I began to see was just the identification of the love. It was the representation of, I was feeling so sad and upset and lonely because it was a representation of the love experience with my husband. And that's the beautiful thing that I can take away now. But in moving forward, so when we come out of that phase of acute trauma and shock and pain, when I had sort of come through that and I knew that I needed to be kind of like the best mum I could be, and there was no point my children having no dad and a basket case mum. I was really blessed. My husband was such a down-to-earth man. So his, like, the thing that he would always come back to in his life was, you can't worry about what you can't change. Yeah. So when we were going through the treatment with our son, and my belief is, the feeling in my heart is, our son was unwell so that my husband could teach me how to survive when he died. Now, I know that not everybody will actually understand that or resonate, or they might even think I'm crazy, but this is my truth. He really did guide me in what it is and how it is to manage suffering. Yeah. And he would continually say, you can't worry about what you can't change. So I had that in the back of my mind. Yeah. And so a couple of years down the track, there was a situation, and I actually had what I would say was like a voice. I now know it was my inner voice. It was my consciousness speaking to me, but I was in a pretty low place, and I heard, your happiness is your responsibility. And that's when it really clicked for me that I couldn't wait for outside circumstances to be something for me to feel happy and okay. I kind of had to feel that. I had to allow myself, I had to give myself permission for that I could just be happy. I could experience happiness and peace and stuff in this state without anything else coming into play. And that was a big thing for me, because I'd always put my happiness on. I was happy because I was happily married. I was happy because I was a good mum. I was happy because, and that sense of, actually, can we just be happy within and just allow the external to just be experiences that we have. And some experiences will be fantastic and some experiences won't be. That's polarity. That's the difference but they're all experiences that can be challenging when you're in a pretty...
Really makes sense to me. It's crazy, isn't it, to go back to what you said about how we always do this whole thing of what we should be feeling. Because I know that there was a moment in time where I was feeling like I couldn't get upset. No, I need to be strong. I shouldn't be doing this. I need to be strong. And it was some talk therapy that I had that was like, no, just allow it, because it's all energy that needs to come out and just be released. And that was like a big awakening for me. Someone just explaining that to me, which sounds ridiculous, but I see it in other friends now or other people where I can see that they're doing what I was doing. Because I just think, I suppose being a single parent as well, I didn't ever want to show any emotion in front of the boys. But actually, when I did show emotion in the boys, it was good, because I think it was quite warming for them that they could also share their emotion. But it's just interesting when you said about the whole should. We, as humans, we do that all the time, don't we? That we
and it's on either end. Like,
who's the should? Who's giving the commands?
I know. But it's like both the ends for me. It was kind of like, I should be strong. I should have my shit together, and then when I did, and if I experienced happiness, then it was like, you shouldn't be happy. It was kind of like, it leaves you in this place of, you don't know what you should and shouldn't be doing, because all these rules and even external expectations, but then the expectations that we place on ourselves. And it's like, how about we just allow ourselves to just feel and be okay in what that feels like. And
Exactly.
it's almost like we don't know.
It's funny because, like, well, it's not funny, but it's interesting that, because I've interviewed lots of different people on this podcast, and there was a guy, Michael, that I interviewed a couple of episodes ago, and his child has a disability, and he said something very similar to me, that when he was having happy moments, or him and his wife having happy moments, it was like, well, we shouldn't be, because we've had this, we've had this really sad time, and it I think everybody's stories are all different, but whenever I'm having these interviews, I feel like it's all very similar things that we go through, which I think is really interesting. You must see that a lot, being a transformational coach in different people, and that's how you can help them, because you've gone through things yourself, and you can basically see how we put these, like, it's kind of like barriers in place, isn't it? We put these barriers in place, or blocks in place as humans, to not just be and just live, really. And it's all around what, in a way, other people's perceptions of us, isn't it? Because I had a lot of that, where I was really bothered what people thought of me, because I had a lot of drama and police and incidents and things at the school and outside my home and all of those kind of things. And I think we put these barriers in place about other people's opinions on us. So it's just been really, really interesting doing all these interviews, because the same things always come out, even though everybody's stories are completely different and everybody's experience is completely different. But there's always some similarities that come out, I think.
And I think for me, it's like, because one, we're all connected. Like, I believe we're all connected, but it kind of comes down to the same sort of fear, and that is, like, if I'm really happy and successful, will I still be loved? If I'm sad and I'm down and out, will I still be loved? If everything comes down to the safety of being a part of something, and the fear of, if I'm like this, or if I do this, or what do I need to do so that I can stay a part of my, part of what feels safe in my community, my connection. We're tribal, aren't we? As humans, we need connection, and the fear of what might out us. And that's what it comes down to. Where, like, for me, is about really trying to guide people into recognizing and embracing that we are enough. That's the strongest thing, that without doing anything, without saying anything, without being anything, we are enough anyway. And when we can know that, when we can be really okay and rock solid in who we are, then we're in a much better place to be able to manage the external situations that may try to take us out of our peace and what causes our pain. Like, can we know that we are enough, even if not one other person on this planet agrees with how we're living? Can we be okay with that?
I like that. I really like that.
And it's so challenging, because we are kind of guided into what the outside world thinks is more important than what the inside world thinks. But the power lies in what we really truly think of ourselves, and what we are willing to allow ourselves to speak, to us. There's nothing more harmful than what we say to ourselves in the quiet of night. There's nothing more harmful than that. Those shoulds that we place on ourselves, they will do more harm to us than anyone can. And a lot of people, that's hard to see, because we look at the outside world, what they're doing, what they're saying, how they might judge us, how they might that might impact us. But if we are really, really, really okay, and we are really solid in our belief and our knowing, then we can allow people to be who they are and it not impact us, or not impact us as greatly. It doesn't keep us locked in a cage. We can still find our way to freedom, inner freedom and peace. But when all of our energy is out there and what they're thinking, what they're doing, we put ourselves in a cage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It just makes so much sense. We just do it all the time. I don't so much now, but I think just generally as people we do, don't we? So I know when we were chatting on the Clubhouse app, we were myself and Neo, and who was the other guy now that had interviewed you? I can't think of the
Dan.
yeah.
Dan?
We've connected on LinkedIn. I've not actually spoken to him since. But you were sat on the beach and we could hear like the lapping of the waves in the background. And so tell us about like because I know you're in Queensland, and I can see for people who are listening to this on iTunes, some of you will be watching on YouTube, but some of you listening on iTunes, you won't be able to see Andrea, but she's looking very tanned and in like, in a kind of a vesty t-shirty kind of floaty top, whereas I'm in a woolly jumper because I'm here in the UK. It's cold. But I think obviously I really got from you that lifestyle and well-being are so important. And so tell us about kind of what you're doing in your business now and what's happening in 2021. Let everyone know, because some people might want to reach out to you for support and help.
Yeah, sure. So yes, we do live beachside in Queensland now. That was a change of direction for us. So that was interesting. And we had a daughter together. So we travelled in 2018 and then chose to relocate without actually knowing the Sunshine Coast where we are. We didn't come here on our trip. So this was really, in terms of courage and being a courage coach, like this was really, we threw everything that was safe and known up in the air and just went, we will follow what feels right for us. So we didn't have any jobs, we didn't have schools, we didn't know anyone. We just went, we will work it out. And that's when I knew that I was going to transition into coaching or mentoring, guide, whatever title for this type of work. But so for the last 2 years, I've just been finding my feet in the business world because it hasn't come overly natural to me. There's different ways that I feel about promoting the work that I do. So just finding my way with that. But yeah, it's such an amazing way to live, to really be kind of like I was going to call it a pirate, not the pirate, but like you're the one that's like in charge of the course of your life and being open to how that might be. So at the end of last year, I really did sit back and talk to the universe. Like some people might say that's God, source, that external, and just really wanted to be guided in connection and collaboration, because I really love being a part of a team and being part of a bigger picture. And I was really fortunate enough to connect with a beautiful lady who is in the US, so Barb Gibson, and doing my own independent coaching through Soulful Living with Andrea. We've also connected and collaborated, and we have a group that's called Let Her Be Heard. And the her in that, it sounds like it's very much for women, and our Facebook group is women only, just to support that, keeping that safe. But our message, we have a weekly call, goes out to YouTube and it goes out on a podcast. And the her that we're talking about is really the inner child. It's really that part of us that's kind of like that feminine, that innocence, that that little part of us that is just thriving and just wanting to be held and loved anyway, so all vulnerabilities and insecurities that we all really have, we just allow space for that to come up. So we delve into a topic, we ask our community, they can anonymously contact us through a questionnaire and just pose there. We've had people wanting to know how they manage their relationship with their mother. We've had people say, can you get trust back in a relationship if it's been broken through communication? Like, how do I feel enough? Like, whatever they are kind of dealing with or pondering.
Or struggling with.
So we just dive into that, and we just had our first, it's called the Voice of Love workshop. So Barb calls her connection the voice of love. I call it the universe, but it's that same sort of really deep connection to self and our inner knowing. So we had a workshop so people can come and experience how we work together as a team, and then we'll start supporting them every week for 6 weeks after that. So 2021 is quite exciting for me because it's really taking such a beautiful turn in terms of connection and collaboration and being able to support, you know, the good of all, really. And it's so nice. It's so nice to be able to be a part of something with someone. Like, I really like the work that I do individually, but it's a really beautiful space to hold when you find someone that you connect so well with.
So the Let Her Be Heard, we'll put the link in the show comments and on the comments in YouTube as well, if you send it. But is when people can ask questions, is that all done live? Like, they post questions before, do they? Or
yeah, so we just have each week, it goes out on my page, like Soulful Living as well, but I just have a link, and that just takes to a type form where they can just put their question in. They can put their email address if they want to know when we're going to actually address their topic, if they specifically want to know. If they don't, then we literally have no clue who has submitted that, and we just talk about that. It goes onto YouTube. This call does, because it doesn't disclose anyone. So it goes onto YouTube, and it goes into a podcast, and it goes straight live into our group as well. And then we just support our group, you know, sort of in a private setting as well with different.
Sounds really good. I love that. I'll have to go and check it out. So we'll definitely put the details so anyone's listening can go and join the group, and or post any questions. Andrea and is it Belle?
Barb,
that's it. Sorry, it's the accent.
My Aussie accent.
So brilliant. So really, really do appreciate your time coming on here, because I know that I really felt like I had a connection with you when we were in the clubhouse room. I always ask everybody at the end of the interview, what does freedom mean to you? Because it's called the Freedom Podcast. And also because freedom means different things to other people. And when I was putting this podcast together, I nearly didn't call it your Freedom Podcast, because I think sometimes we see, especially in the US, always like, hey, you can get freedom by earning, you know, $100,000 in 24 hours, you know. And it's sometimes very sort of digital marketing talk. But I kept coming back to it because I felt that within my journey, I'd really got freedom and peace. And I think it's an interesting one when I ask this question, because I always get different replies. So what does freedom mean to you, Andrea?
Yeah, freedom to me is knowing my heart and following it. That inner freedom will bring more abundance to me than any overnight $1 million check.
Yeah, exactly. I love
Inner
that.
freedom, yeah.
Really love that.
Just the freedom to just be free.
Just be.
Free to be me. I did a 4-week program. Yeah, I did a 4-week program last year. I ran a 4-week program, and it was called that, Free to Be Me, because I think that's what so many people are searching for. Can we just be free within ourselves, comfortable in our own skin? Yeah.
Love it. I really love that. And just one final thing, obviously we'll share the group in the comments, but if people listening to this want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way is through Soulful Living with Andrea. So I have a Facebook group that they can direct message, or I also have the website. But Facebook's probably the best place to get me. I'm quite prominent on there. So yeah, Soulful Living with Andrea. Yeah.
And what is your clubhouse handle, actually? Because people might be listening to this. I feel like all my interviews recently have been from everyone from Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Thinking, how can I find you on Clubhouse? What's your handle on there?
So that's Andrea Gullick.
Right, okay. Right, so we'll put all these details in the notes, so anyone that wants to reach out to Andrea can do. And if anyone wants to post one of these questions, or, you know, kind of maybe struggles that you're going through right now, it sounds a fab way of doing stuff. I love that idea. I think it's great. So great stuff. Thanks ever so much for sparing the time, really, and coming to share everything you have done on the podcast. And it's just great to connect with you. I mean that from the heart. I feel like we've kind of like started a bit of a connection. It'd be great to keep in touch with you.
It'd be fabulous.
There's also some kind of synergy sometimes when you can relate to different people's journeys. And I think when we were on that clubhouse room, we could have spoken for another hour. me, you, and you.
It was so good, wasn't it? I really do love the small, quaint. Obviously, I like really delving into things, and I think that happens. The intimacy that you can kind of experience in that, I love it. It's so good. I love connecting with people.
I felt like we all had that understanding, which I think is quite unique sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, great stuff. Really good to connect with you, and thanks for sharing everything you shared today with all my listeners.
No, right. And thank you so much for the honor of actually being able to be here and be with you. Like, I'm really, from the bottom of my heart, I'm really grateful for people that give me an opportunity to share my message, which is, goes out to their hearts. And if it even gives one person an element of peace, then I feel like my mission is here, and
exactly,
working in the right way. So it's great. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Great stuff. Thank you, Andrea.
No worries.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Your Freedom Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and subscribe on my YouTube channel. And if you want to get more freedom in your life, then come and join Your Freedom Project Facebook group, which the link is below in the comments section. And I am giving you a copy of my visualization manifesting book. So manifest more freedom in your life and live the life of your dreams.
Hey, thank you for listening. Hope you had a blast. Here to elevate your life. It's the Freedom Podcast. Love, money, mind. Love, money, mind. Wanna see you all win. Wanna see you all shine. Just make sure that you subscribe. Bringing good vibes. Join the Facebook group. Now it's time to change your life. Hope you come back. Right now is the chance. This is an experience. It's the Freedom Podcast. Hey.